Hi everyone, we're going to go ahead and continue working on our player by creating the code next. So to begin, we're going to go into the yellow events tab and we're going to use when green flag is clicked. And we're going to go into looks and add a hide. Next, we're going to go ahead and go into my pink block and we're going to create a new block that's called eat in order to change the different costumes when we need to. Under this, we're going to go ahead and go into control, add an if then else, go into operators, use the greater than symbol. We're going to change the 50 to a 0. And then for the empty bubble, we're going to go into variable and use the direction bubble. Now that we have that, we're going to go into looks and we're going to add a switch costume to right eat. And then we're going to go ahead and duplicate it and do the same thing to the left. Once we're done, we're going to go into control. We're going to add a repeat 10. Inside, we're going to go into variable and add a change block. And we're going to change speed by 5. Next, we're going to go ahead and check to see when the player is able to eat or when the player has to continue moving. So on our yellow events tab, we're going to go ahead and add a when I receive. I'm going to click on the word and we're going to go ahead and create a new message and type in start. Once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and add a forever under it. Then we're going to add an if then. And then inside of that if then, we're going to add a if then else. Inside of that if then else in the first bracket, we'll add another if then else. So starting with the very first diamond shape, we're going to go ahead and go into operators. We're going to use the equal sign. The 50 we're going to change to a no. And the empty bubble inside a variable, we'll use game over. For the next diamond shape, we're going to go ahead and use direction is greater than 0, which I already have one here. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this and move it to the bottom. Next, inside of the last one, we're going to go into sensing. And we're going to see when it's touching food. If it is, we're going to go into the my block and add an eat. And if it isn't, we wanted to make sure that it's using the correct costume, which for this one is going to be right. Now that we're done, we're going to duplicate that if then else. We're going to add it to the next if then else at the bottom. And the only thing we'll need to do is just change the costume to left. Now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and set up a couple of things that the game needs. So inside the yellow events tab, we're going to use when I receive start again. We're going to go into variable and we're going to set our scroll X to 0. And then we're going to duplicate it and set our scroll Y to 0. Afterwards, we're going to go ahead and click on control to add a forever. And then afterwards, we're going to go ahead and add an if then. Instead of the diamond shape of the if then, we're going to be using this game over equals no. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate it since I already have one. I'm going to add it inside. So as long as we're able to play, what are we going to do? We're going to go inside of the looks and we're going to add a go to front layer. Inside of the Blue Motions tab, we're going to be adding a point towards mouse pointer. Next, we're going to go inside of Variable, and we're going to add a set direction to. Inside of the Blue Motions tab, there should be a blue direction bubble that you can add to it. Next, we're going to go ahead and add a move 10 steps under it, which we're then going to go into Variable and add the speed bubble to it. Under that, we're going to add a change scroll X. We're going to go into operators and use the multiplication symbol. On the first bubble on the left, we're going to go into the Blue Motions tab and add a blue X position bubble. And on the right, we're going to make this -1. Once we're done, we're going to duplicate this. Change this to scroll Y. Change this blue X position to this blue Y position. After that, inside the Blue Motions tab, we're going to add a Go to X and Y block. X will be 0, and so will Y. Okay. Next, we're going to go ahead, go onto Control and add an if then. Underneath the Go to X and Y. And we're going to go ahead and go into operators. I'm going to use the greater than symbol. The 50 is going to be changed to 585. And the empty bubble is going to be scroll X. Inside of the if then, we're going to now set our scroll X to that same number, so 585. And now we're going to go ahead and duplicate this. I'm moving the scroll X over to the 585, and now this empty bubble I'm changing to -570, which I'll also change over here. I'm going to go ahead now and duplicate this again. This time I'm removing the scroll X bubble and instead using the scroll Y and putting it on top of the -570. And the 585 I'm going to go ahead and change to 375, which I'll change here. I'll go ahead and duplicate this. Move the scroll Y to the other side. Update this new bubble to -400. And then update it here as well. You're going to go ahead now and go inside the Yellow Events tab and use When I Receive. You're going to go ahead and change this to New Message and type in MQ. I have it right now because I had already had it beforehand, but you should not have it. So just make sure you go ahead and type that in, and then you can go ahead and change it. Then you're going to go into Looks, and you're going to add a show. The next thing we're going to go ahead and do is, inside the Yellow Events tab, you're going to add a When I Receive Start. We're going to go into Variable, and we're going to set Game Over to No. And make sure you're typing it exactly how you're typing the other no's. So I keep using lowercase n and o. So make sure you're doing the same thing here because it's very case specific. So that means if you're making the n uppercase, you need to make them all uppercase or else the code won't read it correctly. Next, we're going to go into Control. We're going to add a wait 1 second, and then we're going to add a forever. So now inside of that forever, we're going to add an if then. We're going to go into operators and use the less than. The empty bubble, we're going to go into variable and use the health bubble. And the 50, we're going to change to a 1. We're going to go ahead and inside of this if then, we're going to set game over to yes. Under it, I'm going to go ahead and use an if then else. So I'm going to go into control. Inside of the diamond shape, we're going to go into operators, use the greater than. The empty bubble is going to be direction from our variable, and then the 50 is going to be 0. For the first bracket, we're going to go into looks and add a switch costume to right game over. We're going to duplicate this and then switch it to left game over. Under that, we're going to go into control and add a repeat. We're changing the 10 to a 55. Inside the blue motions tab, we're adding a change y by -1. Then we're going to go ahead and go into variable. We're going to add a change underneath, scroll X. We're going to go into operators, use the multiplication symbol. On the right, that's going to be a -1. And then on the left, inside the blue motions tab, we'll use the blue X bubble. And just like last time, we're going to duplicate this. Change this to scroll Y. Change the blue X position to the blue Y position. And then add a go to X0, Y0 at the bottom. Okay. Then underneath this repeat, we're going to go ahead and add a broadcast. We're going to type in new message and write game over and click OK. And then underneath, we're going to go from the control tab all the way towards the bottom and add a stop all. And we're changing the all to this script. Okay. Next, we're going to go inside of the yellow events tab and add a when I receive health. We're going to go into looks and we're going to set size to 125. In control, we're going to add a repeat 5. Then we're going to go into looks and add a change size by -5. And then we're going to set size to 100. So this way, when whatever we have for the player eats, they're going to get a little bit bigger, and then they're going to slowly shrink back to their original size to kind of add a way for the player to see, oh, my player was able to eat whatever I was trying to chase. So there's only 2 more blocks of code left. So next we're going to go inside the yellow events tab and add a when I receive start. I'm going to go into control and add a forever. Then I'm going to add an if then. Inside of the diamond shape, we're going to go into operators and use the equal sign. The 50 is going to be a no. And inside the variables tab, we're going to use the game over bubble. Inside of this, we're going to go into control and add an if then else. For the diamond shape, we're going to go into into operators, and we're going to use and. Next, on the right-hand side, we'll use the greater than. Then starting all the way on the left, this empty diamond shape, we're going to go into sensing and use mouse down. This empty bubble, we're going to go into the variables tab and use the boost bubble. And then the 50, we're changing to a 1. So this is when the player is able to eat a specific food that makes them a little bit faster for a little bit, or if they click on the boost that they do have. So there's two different ways of doing that. But on the first bracket, we're going to go ahead and change our speed. We're going to change that to 0.5. And under that, we're going to go ahead and set speed to 3. Under that, we're going to go into control and add an if then. For the diamond shape, we're going to go into operators and use the greater than symbol. The 50 will be a 7, and the empty bubble, we're going to go inside of the variables tab and use the speed bubble. We're going to then add a set block, and we're going to set our speed to 7. Okay, and then the very last thing we're going to do, we're going to go inside the yellow events tab and use when I receive start. I'm going to go into control, add a forever, and then an if then. I'm going to go into sensing, and we're going to add a touching mouse pointer for right now. We do not have our enemy sprite, but later on we're going to go ahead and change that. We're going to go ahead and go into variable, and we're going to change our health by -100. And to make this just a little bit easier, we're just going to disconnect it as well, just so that this code doesn't work until later on when we go back and fix it.